like you're some kind of a strange picture on the wall. They don't even know what you're talking about.
That's right.
And so that's why I today am in a horrible place in my life, because I've spent my entire life studying, reading, researching, comparing notes. I've got hundreds of bank boxes in storage of handwritten notes. I've got about 30 bank boxes of just handwritten notes on every subject that's conceivable to the human mind. Everything I could get my hands on was reading and studying it, questioning. And today, after all of that 50 years of that kind of study, and specifically in the areas of religion, theology, occult theology, and government, today I am locked into a country that people look at me like an oddity.
Yeah.
When I talk about my subjects in public, people look at me as if I must be from another world. Well, I figured out a long time ago what it amounts to, what my situation is. If you, as a normal human being, happen by chance to be invited to go for a tour of an insane asylum, and you're roaming around the grounds of that institution, which is filled with mentally disordered people who have to be locked up because they're mentally unstable, and retarded, and you walk through that facility and spend the day talking to people, everybody in that facility knows each other. Everyone in that facility has lived together with everyone else, and so they all have their little eccentricities, and they're all on the same level of mentally disordered, but they all get along together. They're all together, and they've lived together, so they're not. They don't have any problem living with each other. But you, as an outsider, you show up as an outsider, talking and asking them questions about science, religion, philosophy, government, and commerce, intelligent things that intelligent people would discuss, and they will all in the institution look at you like you're mentally deranged because you don't fit.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's happening in America. People like myself don't fit. And my fellow Americans look at me as if I'm some kind of a monstrosity. They have no idea in the world when I'm talking about secret societies, Illuminati, and international high finance, and the manipulation of the human race,
Yeah.
and how religion and occult philosophies manipulate our minds, and how they're manipulating great nations into wars, etc.
That's right.
And so
Well,
I real
I totally agree with you, Jordan, and I personally believe that this is also now a worldwide plague, if you will, in that sense, that this is
it
not at
is,
all
no
restricted
doubt
to
about it.
America. This is in Europe, it is in other parts of the world. I personally obviously witness and see this every day in this former country called Sweden that now has sold itself over to the European Union and is going to change its own constitution going in here in 2011.
Yep.
And everything is, over in terms of, anything that has to do with the nation of Sweden anymore. But that's a side issue. This is a worldwide plague, basically. And the question here that you mentioned that you bring up here about this transformation that has taken place of the human being is an interesting one. It's a pertinent one to talk about. It is basically news items is revealed almost every day now that supports this particular theory. BBC talked the other day of the fact that they now have been able to change people's moral judgment by disrupting a certain area of the brain with magnetic pulses. Another
What I'm
news,
talking about.
exactly. Another news item came out. J. Craig Venter, the guy who's behind the Human Genome Project, has now created synthetic life, first time successfully. A cell have now been able to be programmed by a computer, and this now can go around in its own environment and reprogram other cells. So this is called a new life form, and it's called Synthia. Is this what you're talking about? The scientific
Precisely.
dictatorship, the technological singularity, transhumanism, right?
That's it. That's precisely what I'm talking about. Exactly, because I know I've sat and talked with physicists, scientists, astronauts. I have many friends in the government and industry, and in the science community especially. I'm a member of certain scientific groups, and I sit and listen to these people who are explaining how the human mind works, how the stimuli is scientifically put together. To one day, it's not, let me go back and say that if you're the captain of an oil tanker, one of the largest ships in the world, you cannot manipulate that ship like you do a Volkswagen. You can't run it like a car. You have to plan 20 miles ahead of time where you're going to direct that ship, because it has weight, momentum. It is too large to turn quickly, so you really have to know what you're doing if you're going to be a captain of an oil tanker or a captain of a great seafaring boat. So you have to know what you're doing and then plan 15 to 20 miles ahead of time to where you want to be. Well, the same thing is happening today. The people who are manipulating the human race have already planned this as far back as the turn of the century in 1890s. There were already scientific people talking about the manipulation of the human psyche, the human mind, and redoing the whole human race. Classic example of some of the most brilliant people on the earth, and some of the most awesomely evil people on the earth, but extraordinarily brilliant people. The whole Nazi movement about the eugenics, and incidentally, eugenics, the Nazism and eugenics did not start in Germany. It had nothing to do with the Nazi people. It had nothing to do with the German people.
That's right.
Eugenics started in America. It started right here in Southern California, is where the concept of eugenics began, is right here in Los Angeles. And I can actually show you, it was large articles a few years ago in the Los Angeles Times talking about where did the concept of eugenics and the superior race of humans being developed on the earth, where did that come from? Well, it came from actually in the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles, is where it was actually developed to start with. And from here, it fled into Europe, and from Europe, it set up the whole concept now for the whole world. But it was developed right here in Los Angeles, not by the Nazis, not by the German people at all. It was developed here in Los Angeles. So when I know that and I understand who these people are and what they're doing and what their long vision for the future, like a ship's captain, they have planned this a long time ago, before your parents were born. This was already on the board to be worked on. And this kind of knowledge is on a need-to-know basis, and the guys who are running this planet figure you don't need to know. You just go and watch your basketball and your sports and your soccer and drink your beer and stay out of the way, because somebody is manipulating and directing the whole human race into a hole. We are all going under. Our Earth is under arrested development. People all over the world can't even think anymore. They just go with the flow, So that's number one. I got plenty of other problems.
There's plenty of problems out there. But if I put it this way, then, Jordan, even now in this day, this current age, the era we're in right now, it also seems like even the few little freedoms that humanity has, experienced during its brief little, time here, even they are now beginning to wane, of course, and we don't.
Of course.
The banking system is collapsing. People don't even have the money to go to the basketball game anymore, or the hockey, football game, what have you. It's tight to buy the beer that goes along with that, if you know what I mean. Things are changing.
Well, yeah,
on that
but
level.
I always tell Americans who say things like that, but that's okay, because in the concentration camps you're going into very soon, I'm sure they'll have football for you, because on all the prisons today in America, at least they have TV, and so you can watch football and basketball in prison.
Yeah.
So even if you won't get the cold beer, but at least you'll be able to sit there and vegetate and watch football if you're in a federal prison or in concentration camps like we have in America. We got concentration camps all over this country, just waiting. But they're quietly letting us have one more holiday, but they're waiting very, very patiently. And very soon, Americans are going to be going in and wholesale into concentration camps, into prisons, and the entire world is going to awake and find out that there is no hope for the human race. It's over. It's finished. The masters who own the human race, who feel that they own the human race and where we're going in our future, they're going to be, it's just going to be an iron boot in the face of humanity. So,
how responsible do you feel that we, as global, if you will, then citizens are in this process as well? Because it could be argued, of course, and there's two different stances on this. One is that we are participatory in it because we've allowed it to happen. Another stance on this is no, we've actually been manipulated into this position. We've been progressively or slowly indoctrinated and dumbed down, as it's called, meaning that we at this point we just lack the proper skills to see through this charade, to understand what actually is going on. But
well, there is such a thing called community responsibility in law. And there is a basis for the idea of community responsibility, meaning that you have let things happen. You have gone along with it. You were too concerned with your basketball game and your football game and Paris Hilton and all your silly nonsense that you live with in your sports and all that. And so you allowed things to happen. And the idea was someone quoted during the Second World War that that when they came for the Jews, I wasn't a Jew, so I didn't care. And when they came for the Protestants, I didn't, I'm not a Protestant, so nothing to me. And when they came for this group or that group, I wasn't in that group, so what do I care? Well, finally, they came for me. And so the idea was that when you see things happening and you don't care because it really doesn't affect you and your home and your little area and the town that you live in, so why bother? Well, one day what goes around comes around. It will be your turn. And when it's your turn, everyone else in the world will be too busy to care one way or the other.